Yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. I got the gold. Gold's nothing, I'll get it back. This will save me time. Let me make sure. Skull Splitter, Blood Scalp, Sand Fury. Okay, we have some turning in to do. We were about 3,000 gold, now we're 2,600. Here I go, rep grinding again. The game is so easy with lots of gold.
Wait. No. Hold on. I had it, I swear. Where's all my gold? I had gold! I don't have any gold, I'm broke, no!
Where's my fucking money, motherfucker? Where's my fucking money, bitch?
You're gonna see some serious shit.
Hey, how's it going? It's me, Bash the Lost. Thanks for tuning in. Today I want to talk to you about how I made around 3,000 or so gold out here in Silithis. I was gathering a bunch of groups trying to farm my Wrath of Cenarius ring. And if you're unfamiliar with that ring, it is a crazy long grind. You need to get exalted with Cenarian Hold. And then you need to satisfy this quest, Champion's Battle Gear, which involves gathering 15 Cenarian combat badges, 20 Cenarian Logistics badges, 20 Cenarian Tactical badges, and 1 Mark of Cenarius. Mark of Cenarius is what we're going to really be talking about here today, as that is related to Dukes. That's how I farmed all of this gold. The Dukes drop green items, as well as bind on equip blue items. They can also drop some epics too, if you're really lucky like I was. I had a Hand of Edward the Odd drop, and that sold for about 375 gold. Early on, these blue items were selling for 500 gold. I was fortunate enough to come in the possession of some of these items to where nobody else had a copy of them yet. I tried to list them around 1,000 gold. Nobody ended up buying anything at that price. 500 gold seemed to be a magic number, but just for full transparency, prices have diminished a lot. The prices of investment materials have also risen, so it's not as good of a gold farm as it used to be, but people still are buying the abyssal items. That's what they're known as. Let me show you a quick example. Abyssal cloth slippers of restoration. These are some of the craziest green items you're ever going to see, along with some of the craziest bind and equip blue items you're ever going to see. They'll have stamina. They'll have, if it's of striking, it'll have strength and agility. But the of sorcery and of restoration, in my opinion, are the crazier alternatives to the abyssal drops. As you can see here, plus a stamina, 22 to healing spells, 8 damage to spells, then mana per 5. That is a lot going on for just a measly green item, and the blues are even crazier, with green text adding critical strike rating, and the values stats I just also go. So that's what we're selling. Selling green items, we're selling BOE blues, as well as, if you're lucky, some BOE epics. But how do you summon Templars, Dukes, or Twilight Lords? That is the order they ascend in difficulty. So you could probably solo Templars. You would need a healer for Dukes. What I did was I was healer, and then I would look for a warrior or somebody else with plate armor that was capable of holding threat, and they would DPS while I kept them alive. Also, be aware of Duke of Zephyrs. It's the snake, and he summons a thundercloud. That thundercloud absolutely pumps and will kill you in about 3 to 4 ticks, depending on how much stamina you have. So very, very scary still. But all of the other ones are complete pushovers. You would only need 2 to 3 people in order to defeat them very easily. The Twilight Lords, though, while not incredibly difficult, you still want, like I said, 10 people or so that you can protect your investment. But it all revolves around the Twilight Trappings. It's a set that drops from the monsters in these 3 areas. You can identify the areas by these little huts across the map. One in the middle, one in the northwest, and one down here in the very southwest. Super far down there. You don't want to get messed with. I would head to the southwest one. And with this set, you will make contact with lesser windstones, regular windstones, and greater windstones. The Templars come from lesser, the Dukes come from regular, and the Twilight Lords come from greater windstones. But you'll need more than just the Twilight Trappings set in order to summon a Duke or a Twilight Lord. You'll need to talk to Arl Goldleaf, and if we look at this quest, Medallion of Station is the repeatable version. I forget what the actual name of the starter quest is, but that one will give you some rep and a little bit of gold, but the repeatable is the exact same thing. You'll need 3 Abyssal Crests, which drop from the Templars, and a large Brilliant Shard. I've got one here. I don't have the Abyssal Crests on me right now, as I had just created the result of this quest, which is the Twilight Cultist Medallion of Station. You would need a set of Twilight Trappings and the Medallion in order to summon the Duke. And the Duke is where the real money is at. That's where the BOE blues drop from. That's where the BOE green items drop from. You can drop essences of air, essences of water, earth, fire. 4 of the elements is also a pretty common drop. And it's about 4 gold to 6 gold right now for large Brilliant Shards. The Twilight Trappings in total will cost you around 2 gold. So 8 gold per Duke summon. It was a little bit cheaper before. You could get the large Brilliant Shards for like 3 gold a pop. But that's just not the case anymore. Prices have gone up. More people have tuned into this farm. And a lot more of the items are listed up on the auction house. So competition is a lot more fierce. These are open world locations after all. And you might need to do a little bit of lair hopping if you don't want anybody taking your windstones from you. The lesser windstones have a really short cooldown. I think it's like 2 minutes or something like that. The regular windstones have about a 15-minute cooldown. Pretty substantial. You'll need to run from middle, northwest, southwest. You'll be rotating between those 3 locations if you want to spawn Duke back to back. And then for the Twilight Lords, I do not know how long the cooldown is. I'm assuming it's longer than 15 minutes, as again, the investment is significant and you'll also have to round up a lot of people to do that. But how do you summon that Twilight Lord? The Twilight Lord does have good loot. They have epic items that can drop, but they're not bind on equip. They still have the chance for bind on equip blues, I think, but due to the price difference for investment, it's just not really worth it. Let me show you. So it was about 8 gold before to summon those Dukes, right? And that's where the money's at, just to re-emphasize. This, in order to summon a Duke, you would need a Twilight Ring of Lordship, which also comes from a quest turn-in via Arl Goldleaf. You'll need 5 large Brilliant Shards. So being just for numbers' sake, if they each cost 5 gold a pop, that's 25 gold right there. And then Abyssal Signettes can cost anywhere from 10 gold to 15 gold, so that's another 45 gold. Worst case scenario, plus 25. What is that? 70 gold? Right there? That's pretty brutal. If you want to roll the dice every single time to see if you get something good from the Twilight Lords, be my guest. But I only did it once so that I could get my Abyssal Scepter. And the way that these groups usually work is that you, the group leader, are offering free reputation. You can do round robin on the Signettes if you really want, but as the group leader, as the person investing all of the gold for the materials in order to summon these monsters, which, as I said before, a lot of people probably share an interest in, or the Champions Battle Gear turn-in.
Goodbye.
It's not just Wrath of Cenarius that's good here. Rogues, hunters, warriors are really interested in Earthstrike and would most likely be very happy to join you in gathering the commendation via your free Duke summons. But that means you, the summoner, get the bind on equip items. It's only fair, in my opinion, as the gold investment does stack up really quickly, especially now that profits aren't as high as they used to be. So when forming this group, I always advertised it as a Twilight rep farm group, and then I would make sure that people were okay with the rules I had established. If not, no harm, no foul. They would either leave early, or they were completely cool with it. We became friends, and they were happy to come out and help me again via that free reputation, as it's a really uncommon group. It's a really uncommon group. I felt like I was the only person doing it for a solid week or two. So this is more of like a gambling opportunity if you don't want to summon dukes, or if you want to buy some of the materials off the auction house. So you would talk to Boar Wildmane. We're still in Cenarian Hold, and he will accept Abyssal Crests or a bag of spoils, I think is what it's called.
Watch over you. Go in
Then
peace.
he will also accept Abyssal Signettes or a sack of spoils.
Be careful. Greetings.
And then a
Ancestors
Scepter
watch
of the
over you.
Council will give you a chest of spoils. This, I'm pretty sure, has a chance to contain epic items. It'll also have a ton of raiding materials, potions, food, all sorts of stuff. I have not turned this in yet, as I am saving my Abyssal Scepter as a quest for some easy experience once the patch actually goes live for Burning Crusade. But I was pretty lucky with the Abyssal Signettes. I waited for them to get down towards about 10 gold a pop. I bought 3 of them, came over here, turned it in for a sack of spoils, and I got very lucky. I had a bind on equip blue item drop from that, and it sold for about 500 gold. It was a 2-hander mace. I assume a boosted warrior or a boosted retribution paladin bought it, and yeah, 500 gold really does seem to be the magic number when it comes to selling some of these abyssal items out here. And there is a ton of bind on equip blue items that can come from the sack of spoils. Just to make sure that you're not investing incorrectly, the Abyssal Crest's bag of spoils, that does not have a chance to contain bind on equip blue items. It only has a chance to contain green items, so don't get yourself into something that you don't understand.
Farewell.
I forgot to mention this, but now is a better time than never. So, with the Templars, you do not need any reputation to summon them. You can just go and get your Twilight trappings, equip the set, talk to the Windstone, and summon them. However, in order to have Aurel Goldleaf offer you the quest for the medallion, you will need to be honored with Cenarian Hold. In order for Aurel Goldleaf to offer you the Twilight Ring of Lordship, in order to summon the Twilight Lord, you will need to be at least revered with Cenarian Hold. So pretty steep requirements there in order to summon the Lord. But for the Dukes, you'll be getting honored in no time at all. If you've done the quests out here in Silithis, if you've been farming the Twilight Cultist members at one of the 3 locations for the sets in preparation to farm the Dukes, it's really not that difficult to get honored, especially when you consider that the reputation gains were increased by, what is the right number here? They went from 1 reputation all the way up to 10 reputation. So if you're a human, it goes up to 11, but for everybody else, it's just 10. That's 1,000% increase, right? I'm pretty sure that's 1,000% increase for reputation gains. So I was doing this before the pre-patch. I don't want to hear any of you guys complaining about if this is too hard. It might as well be buttered bread at this point. Yeah, really crazy gold farm that I stumbled upon on accident. And to boot, whenever you're out here running from location to location doing the commendation farm, Hive Ashi Hive Zora, Hive Regal. Every single one of these spots has ooze-covered rich thorium veins, and I made a lot of gold mining all of that up as well. I got arcane crystals. Those sold for like 20 gold a pop. Never got an Azerothian diamond, surprisingly enough. I guess I'm just unlucky. But I got 100 or so thorium just grinding away out here. It was very, very nice. Silithis is an absolute gold mine as far as I'm concerned for in-game vanilla World of Warcraft. Really, really great time. Made tons of friends and acquaintances. Grinding Twilight cultists. Teaching people about field reports. Teaching people about Wrath of Cenarius. Teaching people how the summons worked. Asking them whether they want to do round robin on the signettes or if they care at all. Yeah. It really, really was a grind, and luckily enough, I made some of my gold back. I must have spent almost everything I had grinding for Wrath of Cenarius, and only about halfway through the farm did I realize that some of the items that were dropping were actually worth gold. I was just stuck in my Zul'Farrak jump mindset of like, everything is just vendor trash. Get it out of my sight. But it really ended up working out. And people were even like making fun of me whenever I was like spamming Silithis for group members. I was spamming nonstop. Maybe you saw me out there, but I had people whispering me all the time like, you know they're not going to be elite in a little while, right? Well, luckily I didn't listen to them, and I got ahead of the pack, and I made an absolute killing on gold because of it. Which goes to show, maybe it's not always the best idea to wait for the patch. Maybe you should get ahead of the pack and see what kind of advantage you can make out of that. So while you're out here farming Twilight cultist members for the Twilight trappings, you don't want to buy them, you're probably going to be getting a lot of encrypted Twilight texts. Normally you would come over here to Boar Wildmane and turn them in for about 550 reputation right now. A lot of reputation if you're not exalted yet. However, if you don't want to turn those in for reputation and you're just a fiend for the gold, you could come down here. Do you see where my mouse is hovering? Get out of the way, Boar.
We have more than one.
Stop. If you go over here to this cave, there's a hermit that lives inside of it, and you instead can give him the 10 encrypted Twilight pages. And in 8 hours, he will mail you a bag of goodies, which can also contain a bind on equip blue item. And some of them sell for hundreds of gold. Why not, right? If you're already exalted, it's a pretty good decision, as long as you're okay with waiting 8 hours. That is a long time. Maybe at the end of your night, kind of a thing. I'm about to go to bed. I've got all my Twilight pages. Let me go over to the Hermit and turn them in. So, I think I've covered everything. I think I have covered just about everything. So what I want to do now is show you what it's like to summon a Templar, to summon a Duke, what some of the loot looks like, and as the final send-off, I will show you what it's like to summon a Lord of Twilight. I saved up, gathered a Twilight cultist ring of Lordship, and asked my guildmates if they were willing to help me. Oh, these things are a joke. Oh, fuck, that hurts. Ow. Ow! That's what I deserve, dude. That's what I deserve after saying that. What the hell, dude? Yo, Silithis is pretty great. I like Silithis. I don't know about you guys, but Silithis is pretty great.
You're rich. I just got so lucky, it's not even funny.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Alright, last but not least, I've got another recipe for you guys. I've been messing around with this recently. Before we did broccoli, so this time it's going to be a dessert, and I am doing cloved pears. Put some butter in a pan, about 2 tablespoons, melt it down, add in 2 sliced bosc pears, and on low heat, spice them with a good amount of cloves. I do 20 plus cloves, and I will make sure that each pear slice has at least a clove on either of its sides. You can also add in a little bit of cinnamon too, but it's a much more dominant flavor, so you should be careful with that. Only a very small amount. Then add 1 through 3 pinches of white sugar, and it's up to your personal taste. You can also use brown sugar if you prefer, and more sugar obviously. Also, add in about 1/4 a cup of water. Let the pears soak in that butter mixture. I am not confident in this step. I want more of that buttery pear mixture, and it's going to be dependent on how much water you add. But I've also been thinking, what if I just took a third Bosc pear, sliced it up, blended it, and then added that as part of the spiced pear sauce base? I think that would add a lot of substance. I'm not sure what the right word is there. And if you're feeling really fancy, add in about 1/16 teaspoon of vanilla. Be very careful, just like with the cinnamon. This can easily ruin the dish by, it's just bitter whenever you add too much concentrated vanilla. Okay, that's about all I got for you guys. That's how I farmed my Wrath of Cenarius ring. That is how I made around 3,000 gold in just under 2 weeks at the beginning of pre-patch. I definitely got a head start, so you guys won't be able to make the same amount of gold, but there's still a lot of gold to be made through those abyssal green and blue bind on equip items. They're still selling for anywhere. For the green items, it's 9 gold up to 90 gold still. And then some of the blue items are hovering around 100 to 200 gold. I don't know if they're actually still selling. In my opinion, most people who were interested in these items have already moved on as they've hit level 60 and are now grinding Battleground. So don't invest too heavily. This is more of a diary entry than it is a, hey, everybody stop what you're doing and go do this right now. I just wanted to let you all know, I guess. I found it really cool. And speaking of Battlegrounds, immediately after this, I found myself imprisoned in Altiric Valley for what felt like an eternity, and only an eternity because of how many people just sit outside Drek's room and AFK. Wake up! Wake up! We've got 2 towers! Go in, you animals! The Horde are already pulling! What are you doing? Alright. I trauma dumped. I told you what the video was about for the umpteenth millionth time. And now I know what you're all thinking. Please show us what it's like to turn in 250 Zul'Gurub coin quests. I've got your back. Say no more. Alright guys, I hope you found it informative. I hope you found it entertaining. Hit the like and subscribe button if you liked what you saw. Let me know what you think down below in the comments section as well, and hopefully I will see you guys here next time. Peace out. Have fun.
Relax. Be seeing ya. Who you be? See ya later. Later. Hey there. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. See ya later. How you doing, man? Be seeing ya. Later. Okie dokie. Hello, man. Later. Who you be? See ya later. Relax. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. Hey there. Later. See ya later. Okie dokie. Later. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. Later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Okie dokie. Later. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. See ya later. Later. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Okie dokie. Later. Be seeing ya. Later. See ya later. What you want? Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Who you be? Okie dokie. Relax. Later. How you doing, man? Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Later. What you want? Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. See ya later. Hello, man. Later. Hey there. See ya later. How you doing, man? Be seeing ya. Later. Okie dokie. Later. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. See ya later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. Later. See ya later. Okie dokie. See ya later. Later. Be seeing ya. Later. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. Later. See ya later. Okie dokie. Hello, man. Be seeing ya. What you want? Later. Hey there. See ya later. Who you be? Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. Later. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Later. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. See ya later. Later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Okie dokie. Later. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. Relax. Be seeing ya. Hey there. See ya later. Hello, man. Later. Relax. Be seeing ya. What you want? See ya later. Who you be? Later. How you doing, man? Okie dokie. Who you be? Later. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. See ya later. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Okie dokie. Relax. Later. Hey there. See ya later. What you want? Later. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. Later. Okie dokie. Hello, man. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Later. How you doing, man? Okie dokie. What you want? Be seeing ya. See ya later. Later. Okie dokie. See ya later. How you doing, man? Be seeing ya. Hey there. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Who you be? Later. Okie dokie. Hello, man. See ya later. Relax. Be seeing ya. Hey there. Later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Later. What you want? See ya later. How you doing, man? Later. Relax. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. Who you be? Later. Hello, man. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. What you want? See ya later. Be seeing ya. Who you be? Later. Hello, man. Okie dokie. Hey there. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Later. Okie dokie. See ya later. Okie dokie. See ya later. Relax. Be seeing ya. Later. See ya later. Later. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. Later. See ya later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. See ya later. How you doing, man? Later. Who you be? Okie dokie. Hey there. Be seeing ya. Later. What you want? Be seeing ya. Relax. Okie dokie. See ya later. Hello, man. Later. How you doing, man? Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. Hello, man. Later. See ya later. Okie dokie. Later. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. See ya later. Hey there. Later. Relax. Be seeing ya. What you want? Later. Who you be? Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Later. See ya later. Okie dokie. How you doing, man? Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. Later. See ya later. Okie dokie. See ya later. Hey there. Later. Be seeing ya. Relax. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. Later. See ya later. Who you be? Later. See ya later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. Later. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Later. Okie dokie. See ya later. Later. What you want? See ya later. How you doing, man? Okie dokie. Hello, man. Be seeing ya. How you doing, man? Okie dokie. Later. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Hello, man. See ya later. What you want? Later. Hey there. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. Later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Relax. Later. Who you be? Okie dokie. Hello, man. See ya later. Hey there. Okie dokie. See ya later. Later. Be seeing ya. How you doing, man? Okie dokie. Who you be? Later. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Later. Okie dokie. Later. Okie dokie. What you want? See ya later. Be seeing ya. Later. Relax. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Okie dokie. How you doing, man? Later. Who you be? Be seeing ya. Relax. See ya later. Okie dokie. What you want? Be seeing ya. Hello, man. See ya later. Later. Hey there. Okie dokie. What you want? See ya later. Who you be? Be seeing ya. Later. Be seeing ya. Hello, man. See ya later. Relax. Later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. Hey there. Later. How you doing, man? See ya later. Who you be? Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. Later. See ya later. Okie dokie. Hey there. Later. See ya later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Okie dokie. Later. Be seeing ya. Later. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Okie dokie. Hello, man. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. Later. Okie dokie. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. Later. See ya later. Be seeing ya. See ya later. How you doing, man? Later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. Later. See ya later. Okie dokie. See ya later. What you want? Be seeing ya. Relax. Okie dokie. Hello, man. Later. What you want? Okie dokie. Later. How you doing, man? Be seeing ya. See ya later. Relax. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. Who you be? Later. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. Later. See ya later. Hey there. Later. Be seeing ya. See ya later. Okie dokie. Be seeing ya. Okie dokie. See ya later. Later. How you doing, man? Okie dokie. See ya later. Who you be seeing ya. Relax. Later, Elomon. See ya later. Later, Okie Dokie. Be seeing ya. Hey there, Okie Dokie. What you want? Be seeing ya. Later. See ya later. Later, Okie Dokie. Hey there. See ya later. How you doing, man? Be seeing ya. Okie Dokie. Hello, man. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Later. Who you be? Okie Dokie. What you want? See ya later. Later. Be seeing ya. Okie Dokie. Later. See ya later. Be seeing ya. Okie Dokie. Be seeing ya.
Boom! 250 coin turn-ins.